this lesson we are going to be talking about linear functions and slope. So let's have you fill in the highlighted words. Calculate a line slope, point slope form of equation, write and graph the slope-intercept form, etc. If you need to pause the video, feel free. And then you should have already answered to this question, but if not, go ahead and pause the video and then resume when you are ready. Okay, the slope of the line through 2 points. There are several different ways we can use to find slope. It depends on what we're given. So if we are given a graph right here, so let's suppose we pick 2 different points. If we use rise over run, that would be how far we go up compared with how far we go to the right. That is one way to find the slope. Or we can use the actual formula, y sub 2 minus y sub 1. So if we're given an ordered or 2 ordered pairs, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Another way that they talk about it is what's called the change in y over the change in x. Sometimes they write it as delta y over delta x. So you might see it different ways, but basically we're looking for how far does it go up compared with how far it goes to the right. Oh, vertical change over horizontal change, you might see that. Vertical change over horizontal, it's all saying the same thing. All different ways of saying the same thing. Find the slope of the line passing through these 2 points. Because they gave us a couple ordered pairs, we're going to use the formula. So we're going to find the second y value, so this is going to be our first x value and our first y value and our second x value and our second y value. We're going to take our second y value, subtract our first one. Be careful, the formula has subtract and the number is negative. You need both of them. Our second x value minus our first one. So we have 5 plus 2, and we get negative 7/5. Guys, that negative can be on the top or the bottom or out front. We typically do not leave it in the denominator, but you end up with the same number. Doesn't matter where the negative is, we usually put it out front or in the numerator. All right, let's talk about point slope form. The line does have to be non-vertical. What does it mean? This doesn't work if we have a vertical line, right? But as long as it's not vertical, we can use this formula to write an equation through a given point. Here's the x value that you will be given. Here's the y value that you will be given, and the slope. You may have to calculate slope, or they may give it to you. It just depends on how they wrote the problem. Sometimes they give it to you, and sometimes you have to find it yourself. They will give you enough information to find the slope, but you might have to find it yourself. Write an equation in point slope form for the line with slope 6. So this one, they did give us the slope that passes through the point, and then solve for y. Okay, so we are going to use point slope form, x minus x sub 1. The plane x and the plane y are going to stay plane x and plane y, but it's the x sub 1 and the y sub 1 and the m where we substitute in numbers. So the y value is -5. Our m, we use the letter m to represent slope. I don't remember if I said that. X minus 2. So as far as actually writing it in point slope form, we have this is point slope form of an equation, but nobody ever leaves their answer in point slope form, so we are going to solve for y. So distribute the 6 and then subtract 5. Now this form may actually look familiar to you. We haven't talked about it yet. This is a slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form of an equation, y equals mx plus b, the number in front of x is the slope. B is the y value of the y-intercept. You know I'm very particular about y-intercepts. It is an ordered pair. It does have to have an x value, which is 0. The b is the y value of your y-intercept. And your m is your slope. So even this textbook says the y-intercept is b, and that drives me crazy. Let's see, graphing using the slope and the y-intercept. So remember to fill in the highlighted words, and I will show you an example. So let's suppose we have f of x is equal to 3/5 x plus 1, and we want to graph using the slope and the y-intercept. So the first thing we have to do is find the y-intercept, and we know that's when x is equal to 0. And because this is in slope-intercept form, this number right here will give us our y value. If you don't happen to remember that, you can plug in x equals 0 and you will get the same result. So plot that point first. Okay, so 0, 1. And then we also need to know the slope. The slope is the number in front of x, which is 3/5. What I like to do is just kind of reinforce that it's a positive 3 over positive 5, because we're going to use rise over run. Rise over run. So from the point that we just graphed, 0, 1, you're going to go up 3 units, 1, 2, 3, and you're going to go to the right 5 units. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and put a point. Do not start from 0, 0. You have to start from a point that's actually on the line, and that would be, in this case, 0, 1. And then you're going to connect those with a straight line. And there you go. A horizontal line is going to be y equals some number, and that number is going to be the y value of the y-intercept. The slope of a horizontal line is 0. You're going to need to know that, so make sure you are aware. Slope of a horizontal line is 0. Okay, we're going to graph y equals 3. It's going to be a horizontal line at 3. Horizontal line, slope is going to be 0. Vertical line, on the other hand, is going to be of the form x equals a number. The x-intercept is going to be that number, so you're going to have a 0 for your x-intercept. The slope of a vertical line is undefined. General form, of a linear equation in two variables. Looks like that. More frequent, well, depends on the class, depends on the textbook, depends on the teacher. You might see it written like that. Frequently they call that standard form. So yeah, it just depends on the textbook. Find the slope and the y-intercept of the line whose equation is in general form 3x plus 6y minus 12 equals 0. To find the slope and the y-intercept, you have to put it in slope-intercept form, which means you have to get y by itself. So you're going to have stuff over there. So I need my 12 on the opposite side and the negative 3x on the other side. So I have, at this point, 6y is equal to negative 3x plus 12. But I need a plain y, not 6 times y. The opposite of multiply is divide. You're going to reduce that fraction. You have negative 1/2 x. Reduce that fraction and you have 2. So the slope will be the coefficient of the x term. In this case, it will be negative 1/2. And the y-intercept, and you know I'm picky about that 0, is going to be the 0.02. Using intercepts to graph. Well, first thing you have to do is find the x-intercept. You do that by plugging in y equals 0. Plot that point. Then find the y-intercept. You do that by plugging in x equals 0, and then draw a line between the two. All right, so we have 3x minus 2y minus 6 equals 0. And I'm going to find the x-intercept first by letting y equal 0. So this is my x-intercept. And I know my y is 0. And I don't know what my x value is. So I'm going to take 0 and plug it in for y. And solve. And you get 3x equals 6, divide by 3, and you get x equals 2. So at the point 2, 0, you're going to put a point. And then we're going to find the y-intercept by letting x equal 0. So this will be the y-intercept. X is 0. And plug it in. Minus 2y minus 6. We multiply that, we get 0. Add 6. Divide by negative 2. And we get negative 3. So 0, negative 3 is going to be the y-intercept. And I really struggle on this tablet to draw a straight line that's pretty steep like this. I think I did a pretty decent job. Okay, what is this? Use the data points that they gave us to obtain a linear function. So we need to write a function that models average global temperature, f of x, for an atmospheric carbon dioxide concentration of x parts per million. round m to 3 decimal places and b to 1 decimal place. All right, well, let's see what we have here. So in order to be able to write an equation, we need a point, and we actually have 2 points. So we've got this one, and we've got this point right there. And we need the slope, but they did not give us the slope. Okay, so they were not being nice here. So in order to find the slope, we plug it into the formula, y sub 2 minus y sub 1. So we take our second y value, subtract our first one, and then we divide that by our second x value minus our first one. And they did say to round, so we are going to put this in as a decimal. So when we subtract the numerator, we have 0.6, and the denominator we have 37. And when we divide that, we get approximately 0.016 that's been rounded to 3 decimal places. Okay, and then what we're going to do is plug it in to our point slope form. So y minus, pick a point, doesn't matter which one, just pick one. So let's just pick this first one. So y minus the y value, 57.04, is equal to the slope, x minus our x value. And then because they told us f of x, what they want is for us to solve for y and then replace that y with f of x notation. What does that mean? So I need to distribute my 0.16 minus 5.664. Okay, and then add the 57.04. And where does that give us? Y equals 0.16x plus 51.976. And they said round B to 1 decimal place. Okay, so to 1 decimal place, we've got the 0.9. If we look at the number that's next to it, which is a 7, that means the 9 has to get rounded up to the next higher number. But because it's 9, that's going to turn that into a 52.0. You do have to write the 0.0 if they told you to round to 1 decimal place. All right, now they said use f of x, so we're going to replace the y with f of x. Okay, and time for the reflection. Make sure you answer your questions. And there you